the cold night, when the snowstorm howled as if it wanted to erase all traces of life, a lone creature walked through the darkness, carrying hope. It was not a man, nor an enemy. It was a snow leopard, majestic, mysterious, and silent as the storm it was weathering. Imagine the scene. A small hospital isolated in the mountains, dim lights casting shadows on the white snow. And then, out of the darkness, the snow leopard appeared, carrying a small cloth package like a magical gift. No one understood why it had come, or how it knew this place. But in that moment, everyone knew that this story was more than a coincidence. When Lena, a young doctor, opened the cloth package and discovered a tiny life, her heart fluttered. It was not only a call of duty, but also a reminder that in the deepest darkness, the light of life can still shine. But what is behind the snow leopard's strange actions? What motivated it to cross the ice and through danger to save a child? That question leads us on a mysterious journey about sacrifice, love, and the magical connection between humans and nature. But the answer is not on the surface. It is hidden deep within the story, where small moments can change a life. So where did you find this story? Was it a recommendation from someone? Or was it curiosity that brought you here? Share in the comments. And if you want to continue discovering stories that have the power of awakening and inspiration, subscribe to the channel today. Because tomorrow, a special story is waiting for you. The winter nights in Fionavale were always quiet, as if the world had fallen into a deep sleep under a thick blanket of snow. But tonight, a fierce snowstorm roared across the mountains, making the entire Summit Hope Hospital tremble. Lena Everett, the night shift doctor, sat by the window of the duty room, the neon lights reflecting on her tired eyes after 12 hours of non-stop work. Her breaths were faint in the cold air. The automatic doorbell suddenly rang in the middle of the storm, pulling Lena out of her wandering thoughts. She looked up, thinking it was the emergency team or some late patient. But what she saw made her heart stop. In the dim light of the hallway lights, a giant snow leopard appeared. Its silver-white fur was dotted with snowflakes, its golden eyes shining brightly in the cold space. It stood towering in the entrance, its presence both majestic and mysterious, making the whole space seem to stop. Lena froze, her breath caught in her chest. But the strangest thing was not over yet. In the snow, Leopard's powerful jaws, an old cloth-wrapped package was carefully held. It walked slowly through the door, its claws gently tapping the tiled floor, creating a soft but resonant sound. There was no roar, no sign of aggression. The leopard simply stopped in the middle of the hall, its eyes locked on Lena, as if it wanted to convey something. Lena's heart was pounding, but in the strange gaze of this creature, she felt no fear. There was something deep and emotional in the way it looked at her, as if it knew she would understand. She stood up and walked towards it, her hands trembling but not retreating. The snow leopard lowered its head, gently placing the cloth package on the floor. Then it sat still, its large tail curled around its claws, like a proud living statue. Lena knelt, her hands trembling as she touched the cloth package. When she opened it, her eyes fell upon the image of a baby, pale face, purple lips, and weak breathing. The child seemed to be about to stop breathing, but still let out a soft cry, as fragile as a passing breeze. "Need a pediatric team immediately." Lena's voice rang out, breaking the numb silence of the room. But even as the chaos began to spread, her eyes never left the snow leopard. It sat there still, as if waiting for confirmation that the child had been saved. And in that moment, Lena realized that this was no coincidence. It was a message from things she had never dared to believe existed. The storm outside was still raging, but in Lena's heart, something had changed forever. Lena's urgent call shook the stunned atmosphere in the hospital. The medical team rushed over, their hurried footsteps echoing on the cold tile floor. The baby in her arms was so small, as weak as a candle about to die out in the wind. The baby's pale face and soft cry, like the whisper of snow, made her heart ache. Lena couldn't let this baby go. "Where's the incubator?" she shouted, her voice tearing through the silence. A nurse hurriedly pushed the incubator over, and Lena, with careful but strong hands, placed the baby inside. The medical equipment started working, the sound of the machines beeping rhythmically as if trying to hold on to the fragile life. Meanwhile, the snow leopard sat still, motionless like a loyal guardian. All eyes in the room were drawn to it, both fearful and surprised. No one dared to approach except Lena. She glanced at the majestic creature from the corner of her eye as she checked the child's vitals. "He's fine," she said softly, as if reassuring both herself and the leopard. As if in response, the leopard lowered its head, its golden eyes shining with an unnatural calm. It seemed to say, "I trust you." At that moment, Lena felt an inexplicable connection, as if they were strings woven into a cosmic melody. But just as she thought everything was fine, a nurse rushed over, her face showing concern. "We need more blood for a transfusion, but this blood type is rare." Lena froze. She knew that finding a suitable blood source in this snowstorm was next to impossible. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. But then she looked up and looked at the snow leopard. A bold idea flashed through her mind, vague but hopeful. She walked forward, slowly, feeling the magic enveloping her with each step. "Where did you come from?" she asked softly, not expecting an answer. But at that moment, the panther stood up, slowly walking back towards the door, its head turned as if to lead the way. "He wants me to follow," Lena said, determination in her voice. Despite the staff's confusion and warnings of danger, she did not hesitate. "I have to do this." Putting on a thick coat, Lena rushed outside, following the panther's silhouette through the blizzard sweeping across the sky. Every step was a battle with the wind and cold, but her heart guided her, believing that this creature had not appeared by chance. The panther led her through the forest, its eyes never leaving her. Lena stopped suddenly when the light from a small house on the edge of the forest flashed in the darkness. Her heart leaped. She recognized this as the wildlife sanctuary that had been mentioned in the town's legends. The panther paused, its eyes saying, "Here lies the answer." And then it disappeared into the darkness, leaving Lena standing at the intersection of life, nature, and magic. She walked to the door and knocked loudly, her heart filled with hope. In that moment, Lena understood that it was not just the baby that was being saved, but also the awakening of faith in the magical connection between humans and nature. Lena stood before the heavy wooden door of the small house, where the light that filtered through the crack was like an invitation. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her pounding heart. Outside, the blizzard was still raging, but her determination pushed all fear aside. With a loud knock, she waited, and soon the door swung open. The man who appeared before Lena was a sight that stunned her. He was tall, with snow-white hair and amber eyes that resembled those of a snow leopard. His face was deeply etched with the traces of time and pain. When he saw Lena, his eyes flashed with surprise and caution. "Who are you?" His voice was low and hoarse, but it did not hide his confusion. "I am Lena Everett, a doctor at Summit Hope Hospital," Lena said quickly, still holding her cold coat tightly. "A snow leopard led me here. It brought a newborn baby to the hospital tonight. The baby is unlikely to survive without help, and I believe you know this." The man's eyes darkened. He turned and walked in, leaving the door open, like an unspoken invitation. Lena stepped in, feeling the warmth of the small house dispel the chill outside. The room was filled with photographs of wild animals, especially snow leopards, hanging all over the walls. In the middle of the room, a large table was covered with papers, maps, and old books. "My name is Elias," he said, his hands shaking as he poured a cup of hot tea and placed it in front of Lena. "I was the guardian of this forest, and the one who raised Nira, the snow leopard you just met." Lena fell silent, her heart pounding at the sound of the name. "Nira," she repeated, as if to engrave the name in her mind. Elias sat down, his eyes lingering on the fire burning in the hearth. "She was no ordinary animal, Lena," he said, his voice filled with nostalgia. "When Nira was a baby, I found her abandoned in a big blizzard. She was weak, with little chance of survival, but I brought her here and cared for her like my own. Nira, she was always different. She understood me in a way no other animal could." "But how did Nira know how to take the baby to the hospital?" Lena asked, her voice trembling with curiosity. Elias smiled, a sad smile. "My wife, Kira, was the only person besides me that Nira trusted. Kira once said that Nira could sense life and death. She always believed that if one day we were no longer here, Nira would do everything she could to protect those who needed saving." Elias's eyes became distant. 3 days ago, I lost Kira in an avalanche. We were on our way back from the reserve when the blizzard hit. I tried to save her, but I couldn't. Kira gave me the last family pendant, asking me to protect it. She said that if anything happened, Nira would know what to do. Lena remembered the ancient amulet she had found beside the child and pulled it out of her coat pocket. "This is it, right?" She handed the amulet to Elias. His eyes widened, tears streaming down his aged face. "That's it. The child Nira saved. Was he my son? I thought I had lost both of them." "Yes," Lena replied, her voice filled with emotion. "Your son is still alive, but he needs you and your blood. He has a rare blood type." Elias stood up, his eyes burning with hope and responsibility. "We have to go now." Back at the hospital, the snowstorm had subsided, as if nature knew its mission was complete. Elias immediately donated blood to save his son. In the intensive care unit, the child lay quietly in an incubator, his breathing gradually becoming more regular. Elias sat beside him, his eyes filled with tears as he saw his son alive, a miracle in the cold. "Thank you, Lena," he said, his voice choking. "Not only for saving my child, but for believing in miracles. No one but you could understand Nira and follow her here." Lena smiled gently. "It wasn't me. It was Nira. She knew what we couldn't. She chose to help when there was no hope for humans." Even though the child was saved, Lena still had a lingering question. How could a snow leopard act like that? The answer, she realized, lay not in logic, but in the deep connection between humans and nature, a bond that transcended words. And as Lena looked out the window, she saw a familiar figure gliding through the snowy woods. Nira's amber eyes flashed in the night before they disappeared, leaving a profound realization in Lena. Sometimes, nature is not just a shelter, but a companion, a guide in the darkest moments. The morning sky was clear, and the pale sunlight spread across the white snow, dispelling the storm that had just passed. In the intensive care unit, Elias sat next to the incubator, his eyes filled with love as he looked at his little son. The child was now stable, his breathing steady like a new rhythm of life. Elias's hands rested on the pendant, clasping it tightly as a silent promise to Kira that he would protect the child with everything he had. Lena, standing silently outside the glass door, watched the reunion scene, her heart filled with deep happiness. But at the same time, she knew that another life had created this miracle. An urge made her step outside the hospital, her feet leading her through the snow-covered forest. And then she saw Naira. The snow leopard stood on a high cliff, its white fur blending with the sunlight to create a magical halo. Its golden eyes met Lena's, a silent but meaningful moment. Naira did not roar, did not move, just stood there, proud as a secret keeper of the jungle. "Thank you," Lena whispered, her voice fading into the wind. Naira bowed her head, a gesture that made Lena choke up. Its eyes shone with serenity, as if to say that its mission was complete. With a light step, Naira turned away, blending into the deep forest, disappearing like a dream. Lena stood still, feeling the peaceful air surrounding her. A deep awakening had been planted in her heart, that love, sacrifice, and loyalty do not belong only to humans. Sometimes, nature brings miracles that we can only feel with our hearts. And in that moment, Lena understood that Naira was more than just a wild creature. She was the embodiment of the bond between humans and nature, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to guide the way. Naira's story is not only a miracle, but also a reminder that love, sacrifice, and connection transcend all boundaries between humans and nature. Naira, with her wild yet loyal instincts, has proven that even in the cold of a snowstorm, a flame of hope can still shine. Sometimes, miracles come not from mysterious things, but from simple yet powerful moments like these. We are grateful that you listened and felt this story with all your heart. If Naira's story has touched you, please like to let us know you are here. Share to spread this meaningful message to more people. And don't forget to comment an inspirational quote of yours, something you believe can help someone find light in their journey.